friends, last week I put out a really short video asking if you had any questions so that I could do a question and answer video, and honestly I didn't expect to get any but I actually got quite a few. I have them written down old school. I don't have a tablet or smartphone or any of that kind of thing, so I just copied and pasted them in my computer and printed them off. So like I said, I have quite a few, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to try to keep my answers short so that this video isn't horribly long. Now the first question I'm going to talk about is actually not really a question, but it was such an interesting thought that was posed before me, and I had so much fun thinking about it that I decided I wanted to address this first. And then the other questions, I tried to kind of group them according to category, and some of you asked more than one question on different topics, so your questions may be broken up. I tried to put them under topics. So let's get started. Brandy P says, describe your perfect day. Oh, Brandy, I had so much fun thinking about what my perfect day would be. And I'm going to go with a full 24 hours. I'm going to count my day as a full 24 hours. And my day is going to start the night before. I have trouble sleeping. I don't know if it's just part of being a woman in my age group, part of being a mother. I don't know what it is, but I don't sleep well. I sleep very light. I get woken up easily. I have lots of aches and pains, and so I wake up every time I roll over, and so I don't get a very good night's sleep. So my perfect day is going to start off with a perfect night's sleep. 8 or 9 hours of uninterrupted, perfect, restful sleep. That would start my day off. Then, as a little caveat before I describe the rest of my perfect day, there are 3 things that are going to be going into this perfect day. Number 1, I don't talk about this very much on my channel because what's the point of complaining, but I am a chronic pain sufferer for many different reasons. So my perfect day would be 100% pain-free. Nothing, from the hair on my head to my toenails, nothing hurts for the entire 24-hour day. The second little caveat is that some anonymous someone said, go out and have a perfect day on me and don't worry about the money. So my perfect day would be some rich person saying, go out and have a great day and send the bill to me. The third little caveat to my perfect day would be, I don't care about calories or eating healthy. I would eat whatever I want and not even think about the calories that are in it. So with that, we'll go on from waking up after 8 or 9 hours of perfect restful sleep, waking up on my own, no dogs barking to wake me up, no alarm going off to wake me up. And as I have mentioned numerous times in previous videos, I am a slow mover in the morning. I don't like to be rushed. I have it takes me a long time to get woke up and to get my motor running, so I would have a relaxed morning, have a nice big cup of coffee, and I would have a big old slab of deep dish apple pie, warm, not cold, not hot, but warm, and a cup of coffee, and that would be my breakfast. Then after getting ready for the day, I would go to our local spa and I would get a facial and a massage and a pedicure. I wouldn't get a manicure because I already get manicures. Then I would come back home and I'd get Olivia. Now I was going to take Olivia to the spa with me, but when I told her about it, she's like, no, I would hate that. I don't want people touching me. So she had to stay home while I went to the spa. Then I came back home and I got her, and then we went shopping. I would go to my favorite clothing store, Cato, and everything that I tried on fits me perfectly and looks awesome on me. And I get to purchase everything that I try on. Then for lunch, we go over and I get one of those nice, big, yummy yeast Bin's pretzels, fresh baked Bin's pretzel with a large Dr. Pepper. And that's my lunch. After an afternoon of shopping, I come home and I can't decide if I would either want Olivia to cook something for dinner or if I'd want Scott to take me out for dinner. I would probably choose Olivia cooking dinner at home because I'm not a huge eat out person. I really don't enjoy eating out that much. So Olivia would cook dinner. We'd have an early dinner because Scott's going to take me out. We're going to go to Hobby Lobby and I'm going to get to browse that store for as long as I want to. And I get to purchase whatever I want because remember, my day is being paid for by an anonymous rich person. Then Scott's going to take me to a movie, and it's going to be a movie of my choice. I told him, when I was describing my day to him, I told him it was going to be a chick flick. Normally we go to something, and I like sci-fi and those types of movies too, and like Lord of the Rings and, you know, I don't know what those fantasy, I guess. I like those types of movies too, but I don't make him endure chick flicks because I know he doesn't like them. But this is my day, and so I would go and I would see whatever movie I wanted to see. It would probably be a real tearjerker, warm, fuzzy feeling type of movie. And then we would come home and that would be the end of my perfect day. So now I'm going to go on with more of the questions. And the first category I'm going to talk about is living in the country. And these questions, there's 4 of them, and they were all posed by the same person. This is by K. Mars. So if I keep looking down, that's because I'm reading the questions. Okay, so do you enjoy living out in the country? Yes, I absolutely love it. Was that always your plan to live in the country? I can't say that I ever actually had a plan to live in the country. I just know I would hate living in the city. I would hate it. I've lived in small towns, wasn't a fan. The property that I live on was actually our family estate. I make that sound like it's like we're some fancy people, but no, this was 10 acres that my parents bought. I can't even remember how long ago, probably close to 60 years ago. So it's been in the family all this time, and about 30 years ago, my parents subdivided the property. There's 6 children, and they divided it into 6 equal parts, as equal as you can divide 10 acres, and they deeded over sections of it to each of their children, and that is our inheritance from my parents. And so when Scott and I got engaged, I had actually already started to put a settle here on my spot before I even met Scott. I had gotten a small single wide mobile home and I had it out here, and we were really, I was just barely starting to get the property set up, and I was living with my parents still at the time when Scott and I met, and we had a whirlwind romance, and we got married within months of meeting each other. And so he moved into my house after we got married because he was renting and I own this property, so it just made sense for him to move here and me not to move with him, in with him. And so that's where we've been ever since. And we've just keep improving the property. We've put on this bigger house on a basement, and so yeah, we're pretty well established here. And it just happened that my family's property was in the country. Will you and Scott stay in Indiana, or do you plan on moving when he retires? Honestly, we're going to probably stay here. I really love Indiana. I have lived in other states briefly. I lived in South Dakota for a short period of time. I went to college in Iowa, and I am just an Indiana girl. I am a Hoosier at heart, and this is where I feel most at home. I've lived here my whole entire life. I was born here, brought to this property as a newborn. I wasn't born here. I was born in the hospital, but you know what I mean. So I'm an Indiana girl, and once Scott retires, our home is finally paid for, and I don't think we could sell this property for enough to buy something anywhere else, and we really don't want to be in debt again. So we don't really have any plans to move. And then the last question about that is, if you could move somewhere warm, where would it be? Scott and I have talked about this a lot. He hates the winters. I don't particularly enjoy them either. But like I said, we're not in any kind of position to move anywhere else. But if we could or wanted to, we've already decided we'd love to move to Tennessee. We visited there. It's a beautiful, beautiful state. They've got mountains, and they do have the 4 seasons. Travis is doing chores. If you hear water running, it's the outside faucet. They do have the 4 seasons. It does get cool there, but not as cold as Indiana. If you live up in the mountains, you can get snow, but not necessarily. I wouldn't want to live any further south than Tennessee because I don't like snakes and I don't like bugs. And the further south you get, the bigger the snakes get and the bigger the bugs get. So I really wouldn't want to go any further south than Tennessee, but we would have milder winters if we lived in Tennessee. Now I will answer some questions about homeschooling. And Debbie Lee asks, "Hi Cheryl, I have a homeschool question for you. When you were homeschooling your teens, what social activities did you do?" Well, you know what? That is a big question that a lot of people have about homeschooling, about socializing your kids and getting involved and all of that. And honestly, the sky is the limit as far as what you can do and want to do with your kids, and also what budget you have. Now, we have always lived under a tight budget. We've always had a limited budget. So there were things that I really would have liked to get my kids involved in that we just simply did not have the money to do. And thankfully, my children are very understanding and not bratty about it, and we're perfectly content with what we were able to do. Now, as teenagers, we were involved in quite a bit more than we actually were when they were younger. Of course, we were involved in our church. We didn't have a huge youth group, but there was a youth group. And so whenever there was a youth activity, my kids participated in that. And of course, we went to church every Sunday and participated in worship service. And they had an afternoon meal, and we would stay for the meal. And so my kids were able to socialize with not only people in their own age group, but in people older and younger than them. We were also extremely active in a homeschool co-op. And if you do homeschool or are thinking about homeschooling, I would highly suggest that you try to find a local homeschool group or homeschool co-op that you can become involved in. That is where my kids met all of their friends. My son's best friends he met at co-op. We would go to co-op twice a month, and it was about half of the day. It would take us about half the day at co-op, several hours, and we would stay for lunch. A group of us would go to Arby's and have lunch together, and so my kids really enjoyed co-op. I think Travis probably enjoyed it more than Olivia because Olivia is very shy and she had a hard time making friends. And honestly, I loved co-op probably even more than my kids did because that is where I got my social interaction. You think that children and teenagers need social interaction, but people of all age groups need to have social interaction. And that is where I met all of my girlfriends, and I got to talk with other moms that were all like-minded. We were all homeschooling. And so when we were done with school, and we didn't go to co-op anymore, I think I mourned the loss of my co-op group more than my kids did. Another thing that both of my kids were involved in for many, many years was Taekwondo, and that would take us out of the house 2 to 3 evenings a week for practice, and then they would have tournaments and things like that on occasion. Olivia never participated in any tournaments, but Travis did. Travis went on to earn his black belt, which he was very proud of, and so were we. Unfortunately, he kind of has not continued with Taekwondo after he got his black belt. The school that he went to folded, and so that opportunity is passed, but there's always something that he can fall back on in the future and start back up. Olivia went until she got to her purple belt, which at the time purple was her favorite color, and when we first started Taekwondo, that was her goal, was to make it to purple belt. Now that was not easy for her. Like I said, she's very shy. She hated the testing part of it because you have to practice and train for so many amount of weeks, and then you have to test to see if you can earn your next ranking. And she hated testing because she was put on the spot. It was very difficult for her, but she did persevere until she got to her purple belt. Another thing that we did was we went to our local nursing home and visited the elderly there. We would go once a month and we would play bingo with the residents, whoever wanted to come down to the dining room, and we would play bingo, and we got to know some of these older people because it seemed to be the same ones that would come every month, and it was a really good experience. They got to learn compassion for people that couldn't hear or couldn't see very well or had lost mobility, because they would help the elderly people find, you know, the numbers on their bingo cards. And so that was a really good experience. We did that for, I think, 2 years. We did bingo once a month with the old people at the nursing home. And then the last thing that they would do was just spontaneous sleepovers or hangout times with their friends. Like I said, Travis, more often than Olivia, would have his buddies over to play video games and eat pizza. And a lot of times Olivia would invite her friend over, and so we'd have 5 or 6 teenagers in the house, and it was a lot of fun. The kids had a great time, and I got to know their friends, and I approved of all of them. They were really, really awesome kids, and they're awesome adults now. K Mars asks, did you always plan on homeschooling, and what made you decide to homeschool your kids? Yes, I always planned to homeschool. I knew that when I had my children, that is what I wanted to do from the very, very beginning. Part of the reasons why I decided to homeschool was I did not have a good experience in school. I was very much like Olivia in that I was incredibly shy, incredibly awkward, and not outgoing, and I became a perfect target for people to pick on. And so my school years were pretty miserable. I did not want to put my children through that, so that's one of the reasons why I decided to homeschool. Another big reason why I decided to homeschool is that I did not like the direction that the public schools are going as far as removing God from the schools, and I just didn't like what I was seeing happening. And I wanted my children to be able to have a faith-based education, and so I knew that the only way they were going to get that was either to go to a Christian school, which we could not afford to send them to, or homeschool. And so we decided to homeschool. Another reason why I decided to homeschool was because we had a little bit of fertility issues. It took us 4 years to get pregnant with Travis. Now, the first year or so, we weren't really trying because we were newlyweds, and you know, you just want to be just the couple. But it took us a good 3 years to get pregnant with him. And so at the time when I finally did get pregnant with him, I really didn't know if I was ever going to be able to have any children. And I've always wanted kids ever since I can remember. That's what I wanted. So when I finally got that little baby in my arms, I just couldn't bear the thought of, in 5 short years, shipping him off all day long for someone else to raise. I just couldn't do it. I worked too hard to get that baby, and I wanted to keep him with me, and I wanted to raise my children myself, and I wanted to spend as much time with them as I possibly could. Now, all of these reasons that I homeschool my kids are my reasons. I'm not saying my reasons are right and you're wrong to put your kids in public school. You have to do what's right for you and for your family. But these are the reasons why I homeschooled. Those are the main reasons. There's lots of other reasons, but those are the main reasons. Gina Vasquez asks, I know you have homeschooled your children and they are done with high school. Have you ever thought about going back to work? Actually, yes, I have. I've kicked around the idea lots of times. I do have issues with pain, like I mentioned earlier. I cannot stand on my feet for long periods of time, and I've not been in the workforce for over 20 years. So I have my doubts that I'm hireable, and I'm not really sure what job I would want. I do know that if I were to go back to work, I would only want to go part-time. I'm kind of throwing myself into my YouTube channel, and I'm making pennies. I mean, I'm barely making anything. So it's still just a hobby for me. But maybe I'm thinking someday my channel might grow into enough of a income that would be equal to a part-time job, and then I wouldn't have to find a job outside the home. I'm very, very fortunate that at this point I don't have to go outside the home to work, and so right now I'm content to stay home, but I am not opposed to the idea of working outside the home. It would just have to depend on the job, and the right job would have to come my way. And this rolls right into the next topic of working outside the home. Schnauzer Mom asks, have you ever worked outside the home, or have you always been a stay-at-home mom? Yes, I have worked outside the home. Not after my children were born, though. Before my kids were born, many years, in my late teens, early 20s, I worked in several different jobs. My main jobs that I worked in and that I have the most experience in are office jobs. I was a bank teller in a credit union for many years, and at the same time I was working a part-time job in accounts receivable in a very, very large mobile home and motor home, like RV company. So at that time in my life, I was literally handling millions of dollars a day. Those were my main jobs early on. And at that time, I was driving an hour one way to go to those jobs. So then after Scott and I got married, it just became a real hassle to drive that distance every single day. We were hardly ever seeing each other because we'd both get up really early to get to work. Because like I said, it took me an hour to get there, work an 8-hour shift, and then drive an hour home. And it was just, we weren't happy. And he was making enough money at the time that we figured I could cut down to part-time. So just on a whim, we mentioned it to our pastor that I would really like to work part-time somewhere. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, my secretary just handed in her notice. So within a matter of 2 weeks of getting this thought in my head that I really wanted to start working part-time, this job opened up. It was all of God. I just know it was. And I became the secretary at my church. I loved that job. It was awesome. It met our needs, and it was about 3 miles from my house. It took me 5 minutes to get to work. Then that job ended right about the time I got pregnant with Travis, or a little before that. And at that time I decided, I'm going to have a baby. I want to stay home with this baby. So I handed in my notice for that job, and my pastor had left. The pastor that I was working for at the time had left, and we were in transition, and so it was a really good time for me to leave. And I just started babysitting for a friend, and I babysat for my friend for a year until Travis was a few months old, and then my friend decided she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and so my babysitting job ended, and it just worked out perfectly because I gradually got less income from a full-time job to a part-time job to babysitting to being a stay-at-home mom. So it wasn't this very, very quick transition on our pay. So I've just been a stay-at-home mom ever since. Now when my kids were in junior high, I did go back to school, did some online schooling, and I became a medical transcriptionist. And I worked as a medical transcriptionist from home for a couple of years. That was really fun, but it was very challenging. I was working a full-time job as a medical transcriptionist. I was homeschooling my kids. We were involved in Taekwondo and our homeschool co-op, and I was teaching 2 history classes at our homeschool co-op. So that was an incredibly busy time in my life. That job petered out after the Obamacare became law, and most all clinics went to automated transcribing, and they don't use transcriptionists very much anymore. The clinic that I was working for, that's what they did, and I put my feelers out there for another job, but nothing really happened. Nothing ever came of it, so that was the end of that. And I haven't really earned any income since that time. And the rest of these questions, I would say, are kind of like miscellaneous questions, and I'm going to try to speed through these because I think this video is going to be really long. Kay Mars asks, how has your life changed being a stay-at-home mom now your kids are older? I think I touched on that a little bit already. Mainly my life has changed in that I don't have as many opportunities to socialize with other women. That's my main thing that has changed, and actually I went through quite a period of time of being quite depressed about that. And then around that same time I started spending more time doing my YouTube channel, and I've met so many wonderful friends through YouTube, and so I get my socialization with you guys. How else has it changed? At this point, it really hasn't changed all that much because both of my kids still live at home. I worry more now than I ever did when they were little because I keep thinking, you know, they're going to be out there on the roads by themselves in their cars, and they're going to be getting jobs, and, you know, all these worries that run through my head. So I think I worry more now than I ever did before, and I think that's about it. It really hasn't, at this point, it hasn't changed all that much. Other than I do have more time to spend on hobbies, which is really fun. I never had time for hobbies before, but I've got more time for hobbies now. And I think my house is cleaner because I have more time to keep it clean. Emilie Fryett has several questions. Her first question is, are there any countries you would like to visit? I would love to visit Australia. I have a very good friend there, Carolyn, that I would love to be able to meet sometime. And that country is just fascinating to me. It seems like all of the oddest things in the whole world are in Australia. And I would just love to see all their odd creatures and everything. I would just love to visit Australia. And I'd also love to visit Ireland. No particular reason other than I've seen pictures and it just seems to be a gorgeous, gorgeous place. And both of those countries speak English, so I wouldn't have to worry about a language barrier. What was your favorite food as a child? Do you still like whatever it was? I'm gonna have to think about that for a minute. I think I'd have to say my favorite food as a child was my mom's homemade fried chicken and her homemade biscuits. Oh my goodness. They were so delicious. She would make these usually on a Sunday. We'd have bigger, fancier meals on Sundays, and a lot of times she'd make fried chicken, mashed potatoes and gravy, and homemade baking powder biscuits. So good. Oh my goodness, it was so good. I think that was probably my favorite meal, favorite food. And yes, I still love it. Unfortunately, my mom is no longer living, so I will never taste her baking powder biscuits ever again, but I do have her recipe, and I tried to duplicate, although I'll never be as good of a cook as my mom was. The next question, this is also from Emily. What personality traits do you share with each of your kids? I think with Travis, we share our soft heart. He's a very he's a very tender-hearted guy. He's very compassionate for other people, and I think that we share that. He's very low-key, very mellow. I tended to be more that way when I was younger. Now I kind of stand up for myself a little bit more, and I'm a little bit more outspoken, but not a lot. I tend to keep my feelings to myself, and he's kind of like that way too. He's up in his head a lot, and keeps to himself a lot, and I think that we kind of share those, although I think he's a little more that way than I ever was. Olivia, definitely share the shyness and the introvertedness. I struggle with being an introvert. I wish I was more of an extrovert, but I'm not. I don't feel comfortable in social situations with lots of people. She's exactly the same way. And we share creativity, although she beats me by a mile in her creativity and her ability as an artist. She is so talented. It's amazing how talented she is. So yeah, I think that's what we share. Ginger Hokit, I think I pronounced your name right, says, I would like to ask about your hair care and how you style it. You have beautiful hair. Well, thank you so much, Ginger. That is so sweet of you to say. My hair care is pretty easy. I videoed how I did my hair yesterday, and so I will insert that clip here, and in this clip I will share the hair care products that I use. My hair care routine is pretty simple. First of all, I use this Marvelous oil on my hair as a leave-in conditioner. I do not shampoo my hair every day. I just, 2 or 3 times a week, I will shampoo my hair. I just use moisturizing shampoo, usually the Suave brand, because it's cheapest and it works really well. I put a pretty good amount of this oil in my hand, and I just rub it throughout my hair. And then I use this Whole Blends conditioner as a leave-in as well, because my hair tends to be dry, and so I like to keep it as moisturized as possible. And yet again, I just rub this in through my hair, and I only use my fingers. I don't typically use a brush or a comb. I just use my fingers to comb through my hair. And then I use a hairdryer and a brush to style and dry the top and the front of my hair, and I do dry the back a little bit, but I tend to leave it pretty damp because I don't want to dry out my hair. And then I use a curling iron just to put in a few curls on the top of my hair to add a little bit of height. And then I just put a tiny spritz of hairspray just to kind of hold it in place. Now my hair is naturally curly, so those curls you see there are all my own, and I add this Wonder Waves stuff just to, add definition and to keep my hair from getting frizzy. And there you have it. That's my hair routine. Cindette Wertman, I hope I pronounced your name right, asks, I would like to know where you got the pattern for the crocheted chicken in the baskets you have over by your plants. I think I saw it on one of your cleaning videos while you were mopping the floor. I love all your crocheting projects. Well, thank you so much But honestly, my daughter, Olivia, crocheted those chickens. She gave them to me for presents. One year she gave me 2 for Christmas, and one I think she gave me for my birthday or Mother's Day one year. Like I said, she far surpasses me with her talent and her creativity. And she got that pattern. It was a free pattern, and I will have the link where you can find that pattern in the description box below. And the last question is from Kay Mars, and it is, how are you motivating yourself to do your hair and makeup and not stay in PJs all day? Well, honestly, there are days where I don't do my hair and makeup and I do stay in my PJs all day. It's just one of those things I feel like is kind of a bonus to being a stay-at-home mom. If I have nowhere I need to go, I sometimes will stay in my PJs all day, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as it doesn't become a habit, and as long as you're not staying in your PJs because you're depressed or for some, reason like that. How I do motivate myself to get dressed and get going through the day is obviously if I have somewhere I have to go. I do not like to leave the house at least without a little bit of makeup on and make sure my hair is clean. Another thing that motivates me to do my hair and makeup is if I know I'm going to be filming a video for YouTube. I feel like you guys spend your time and take your effort to click on my videos and watch them. The least I can do is make myself look presentable. That's just the way I feel about it. Not all YouTubers feel that way, but that's the way I feel about it. So if I know I'm doing a YouTube video, I will make the effort to pull myself together. And then the third thing I have to say about that is on those days where I just don't feel like doing anything or getting myself pulled together, I'll just say to myself, "Self, go get in the shower." And so once you get in the shower, you have to take off all your clothes, and it takes just as much energy to put new clothes on, no matter what they are. So instead of putting on a clean, fresh pair of pajamas, just put on an outfit. Another motivating thing for that is that when I started doing this no-buy year, I have made a goal that I am not buying any clothes, new clothes, for an entire year. So I went through my closets. I needed to see what actually I have. So I went through my closets and my drawers. I did an inventory, and I realized I have a lot of cute clothes that I hardly ever wear because I've been spending too many days in my pajamas. So in order to actually get some use out of those clothes that I spent money on, I might as well wear them and not just save them for days when I'm going to go to town or go to church. Because that's a lot of the reasons why I wasn't wearing them, because I thought, oh, they're too nice to just wear for every day. But I'm thinking, why not? I mean, unless I'm doing a dirty job, like cleaning something gross or going to be spending all day in the kitchen, why not wear a cute outfit? So then after I get out of the shower, I think, okay, I'm going to just put moisturizer on. Well, but if I take the time to stand in front of the sink to put moisturizer on, 9 times out of 10, I'll decide, oh, I might as well put on a little eyeliner and a little lip gloss. And a lot of times that will lead to actually doing even a little bit more makeup than just eyeliner and lip gloss. But I feel like if you only do eyeliner, lip gloss, and moisturizer, at least if you have to leave the house or if someone stops in unexpectedly, you're at least looking a little bit better and not like you just ran a marathon or just rolled out of the bed. So I think if you just take those little steps, take it one step at a time, make the decision that you are going to get in the shower and make the decision that you're going to put real clothes on, then it just kind of snowballs, and before you know it, it's only taking you 20 minutes and you look nice, if for no other reason than to look nice for your husband and for your family. I want to thank you guys so much for all these questions. I'm sorry this video turned out to be so long, but I kind of knew it would be when I saw the content of the questions. These were kind of in-depth questions, more than just yes or no answers. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you enjoyed it and if you like these types of videos, and maybe I will do another question and answer video in the future. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.